How's it going, everyone? Derek from Make Media Studios, and today we're going to be doing a basic color correction in Lumetri Color in Premiere Pro. I just want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed to the channel and has been liking these videos. It's really fun for me to create these, and I'm having a good time doing it. I plan on making more and more and more. So thanks for all the support so far. If this is your first time here on the channel, don't forget to go down below and hit subscribe and smash that like button and leave any comments if you have any questions along the way. So today I'm going to be going over a basic color correction Lumetri Color. I'm just going to show you some of the things and tools I use in Premiere Pro to color correct footage. Now, the main thing to remember is color correction and color grading are two separate things. Today is just basic color correction, just the things to make a simple shot look correct as it is to the eye. Color grading is what you're going to do if you want to add a look, start adding those blues and the darks and the oranges and the highlights and adjusting it to make it look like a certain film or a look that you're looking for in the footage. Like the Joker and different films that have come out recently have a look to them. That would be a color grade. This is color correction. That's always the first thing I try to explain to everyone, that they're two separate things. Color correction is balancing the shot. Correct exposure, making sure that the face and skin tones look correct and your white balance is correct. And that's about it. That's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you 3 clips. I'm just gonna go through a color correction on them and show you what I would do and what I use in Lumetri Color. So let's get into Premiere Pro. All right, so first let's start with the 3 clips I'm gonna show you today. First is actually a clip from a wedding that I did almost 2 years ago now, and looking at this right here, you can see that I exposed and just kind of shot the colors incorrectly in camera when I shot it. So here's kind of a before. You can slide over to this one and there's an after. Okay, so there you can see the difference. We have before, after. That's what I did to clean that shot up. Let's go ahead and go over to my friend Daniel here. We just filmed the other day for Kermwick 2 with Giggly Dickens. So this is a little sneak peek on one of the scenes. Sorry, Gio, I didn't ask permission, but that's okay. I shot the clip, so I'm gonna say that I have it. So here we have Daniel, this is before, and then this is what I did after, all right? This is what I made it look like. So I'm gonna show you kind of why I got it to this point from this shot right here. This shot I underexposed, it wasn't exposed correctly. All right, so here is a drone clip. This is just a simple drone clip for one of my customers that I work with, and this one is the Altamont Pass. So, all right, that's the 3 clips. Let's start into this right away. Let's start with the wedding clip. Okay, so this is what we got to, okay? This is where we're gonna start. So I use these tabs up here at the top, okay? You might be in the editing tab when you first come in. You might be in the assembly tab. I use the color tab, okay? I'm gonna pull this down and try to make this as big as possible so you guys can see this happening on the screen as we're doing it. In the color tab, as I just reset this, this is your Lumetri Color remote. It's like a remote control because the actual effect is over here in the effects control. Once you move one of these sliders, you see that it added Lumetri Color over here. So now this is almost a remote control for everything that's in this effects panel over here for Lumetri Color. So let's just look at this shot. It's kind of flat, the colors are a little bit off. I'm gonna start with white balance, okay? So the way I do that, I need to find a known white source. Well, she's got a white dress on, and this is an exterior shot. If I go to opacity, free draw Bezier tool, I can draw myself a little bit of a box around her dress, okay? Then, using my Lumetri scopes here, you notice that it's moving towards the blue line. So let's go ahead and push that blue back towards yellow, okay? That's looking a little bit better, but you can also see that it's pushing towards magenta, and you can also see that here in the waveform monitor as well. We go ahead and add a little bit of green back into that, we can get it real centered. You'd almost now look, it's a single dot right in the center. We go back over to effects, and we disable this mask. Okay, now I just white balanced for her dress. This is what it was before, looking a little bit blue. This looks a little bit more natural what's going on. It does look a little bit green, which I'm gonna get to that here in a minute. It's out in the forest, right? So you have green coming from the trees, casting green on the people. So we're gonna remove some of that later on. Now, exposure-wise, back to my Lumetri scopes. As you can see here, I'm not clipping. This is your brightest colors up here at 100, and down here at 0 is your darkest colors. So we can go ahead and bring the blacks down to start to touch that. We could bring the whites up a little bit. I like to add a little bit more contrast. That's gonna separate the distance between your highlights and your shadows. So since this is kind of a flat shot, I'm gonna bring that back up a little bit. All right. I'm gonna take a little bit out of the shadows. I like to have my shots a little bit brighter. We'll drop a little bit of the highlights. We'll bring the whites up a little bit more. So that's where we're at. It's not looking great yet. It's not exactly there. But this is your initial balance. This is where it was. And you can see we started to spread out those colors a little bit. We'll drop those blacks even more. We want to get a couple blacks touching at the bottom. I'm probably going to add a little bit of saturation into the shot too, because it is a flat profile. So we'll say something like that. That's looking a lot better already. We came from this to this. Now let's go down here and talk about some of these other sections. So as you can see with my basic correction, I start with white balance. Then I go into my tone section right here, and then I add a little bit of saturation. We have the creative section, which I'm not going to use. That's more of the grading area of this. This is where you can add a look, like this blue and gold. You can try and put the intensity there. I'm not going to use creative. I'm going to disable that and not use it. Curves though. I'm going to go into curves. Again, this is kind of a flat image. So you can use this RGB curves area right here to make it kind of an S curve. Pull a little bit in the highlights, drop a little bit in the shadows, and you can see already that kind of added even more, a little bit of contrast. A good S curve always helps, I think, make something look a little bit better. You drop your shadows and you pull up your highlights, expanding that contrast a little bit. Adjust that just a little bit more. A little bit more. So still with this green that I'm seeing in the shot, you can notice that it's on their faces and everywhere a little bit. It's more in the mid-tones. You can actually take this green, you can pinch it right here in the center, and I can just drop that out a little bit. I just took a little bit of green out of there, as you can see from here to there. I took a little bit of green out of the mid-tones because the green from the trees is affecting skin colors and different things like that. I noticed that their skin tones don't look exactly 100% here. And so what I want to do is I want to sample the skin tones right here. It's going to add a little bit of a section here in the hue versus hue where I can adjust that. And I'm just going to pull that up a little bit. See, if I pull it down, it makes them look more green. If I add just a little bit of red to them, take that off, take it in, it added a little bit more color back into their skin tones. Other than that, I think that looks pretty good. All right, that's their shot right there. I'm going to take off each one of these. This is what the curves layer did. Okay, that took out the green, made it a little bit more contrasty, and I messed with their skin tones a little bit. And then their basic color correction is where I balance the actual shot. Okay, so there. That's what I came up with. That's where I'm at with that. I like it. Let's go over here to Daniel's shot here. Okay, so let's go back through the basic color correction again. This is more of my blues and oranges, so the white balance itself is going to be a little bit off. If I just try to grab a known white value in the shot, it's probably going to make things really blue, or it's going to make things really orange. So, okay, so looking at the overall shot, I know I need to do some exposure changes. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the exposure just a little bit. I'm going to pull... The contrast is not looking too bad. I'm actually going to take a little bit out. I'm going to bump the highlights a hair on his so that it affects his face there. Give it a little bit more shadows. Go back to my scopes here. Check out where everything is. My whites are really bright, so I'm going to bring those down to something like right about there. And the black. So as you can see, just that's what I had. And that's where I went to. I think that looks pretty balanced. This is all using your eye and what you think looks good. But that's how I adjusted that shot right there. We want to now look at his skin tones, which I don't think look that bad. Let's go here to, let's find a good spot. That's a good one. We're gonna make another box just around his skin here. And Lumetri scopes, I'm gonna check out where he lines. He lines pretty good. As you can see, his skin tones though are pushing a little bit towards the magenta. Alright, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use my green curves layer here and just push a little bit of green into the midtones or highlights here of his skin and get this line of his skin tone more on this line right here. Okay, so I just want to add a little bit down here to get that over. I'm going to pull some of this back onto the line. Let's go ahead and take this effects controls. Let's minimize that mask real quick. And let's see what that looks like. Take that mask away. And see, his skids were a little bit red and magenta. Adding that little bit of green back in there kind of balanced out his skin tones. I think there's a little bit too much green myself. I think this is where your eye just kind of has to see it. I'm gonna take that out of there. But other than that, that's that, okay? Let's go ahead and remove this mask now. And let's just sample what we got here. So we went from my basic corrections, right? Gave me, let's turn off, okay, let's go back here and let's turn off curves. Okay, so that's just what I did to correct the skin tones a little bit. And this is my basic correction. So take that off. So it was a little bit underexposed. I brought up everything, made it look more balanced. Then I used my curves layer to kind of add a little bit into his skin tones and make him look a little bit more correct. So that's what I got for that shot. So let's go ahead and go over to this drone clip real quick. Okay, so now back into basic correction. White balance wise, I mean, I could sample one of these towers and make sure that it's pure white, which it looks like this shot was perfectly done when it was shot. So white balance wise, it looks pretty good. As you can see, if you start to pull this to the blue or to the orange, it's gonna look a little bit weird. Colors wise, this came out really good, but I think you can tweak some of the exposures and some of the things that I've learned from like wide shots like this, exterior, what you can do with them. Let's just, you know, I'm gonna pull that contrast up a little bit. That's something I like to do. As you can see here, we can pull down the, looking at our Lumetri scopes, we can get some blacks back in there at the bottom. Pull up some of our whites all the way. I dropped my highlights to bring a little bit more back out in the sky, which I'm gonna deal with more here in a second. And that's pretty good. So we went, you know, just from a little bit flatter, a little more vibrant. Again, we can then add a little saturation into the shot, make it a little bit more with the greens and the blues. One of the cool things about the Lumetri color and shots like this that I like to do is I'll add a secondary one. You can then go over to your effects controls. This is the secondary one. You can toggle these on and off to figure out which one's which. You can also rename these by right-clicking, and this one you can call main. I'd right-click this one, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do sky for this one. Okay, so this one I'm just gonna add this box over the sky from each side. So something like this, just enough to cover the sky. You know, something that like kind of matches up with the horizon line and all that good stuff. So I can even add another point right here and pull it down a little bit. Add another point right here, pull it down a little bit. So you can see here that now that mask matches the horizon line. You can go put a little bit of a feather on there. That's what this little dot, these dots are. Because you don't want it to be a drastic change really fast. But now you can drop those highlights even more inside of that box to try to get the sky maybe even a little bit darker. You can even bump the vibrance in just the sky if you want to make it super blue. You can then, you know, do stuff like this so that you can see that I just affect the sky here in this sky layer if I want to pop the sky out a little bit more. I find that kind of useful. I think that the highlights are a little bit too low. I put a little bit too much saturation, but stuff like that. You can use these masks with multiple Lumetri colors to make different layers in your color correction. I'm gonna add a little bit of my little S curve. That always adds a little bit, like I said. See, so this is after. Okay, so that's what I did with that. Let's go ahead and click right here so we get rid of that mask. So you can see I can toggle off the sky, what I did with the sky. Brings it to there. Toggle the sky back on. This is our main shot. Main on, main off. So you can kind of color correct the bottom and you can color correct the top, and that's what you can do. All right, so these were 3 basic clips. I didn't go really into super detail. There's a lot of other tutorials out there that you can find to pinpoint certain areas in here, but these are just the basic tools that I use. Basic correction and curves are the 2 that I think I'm using the most to just balance my shot out, and then use curves to affect certain tones specifically, like skins, to make the skin look correct. There's a lot more you can learn about skin tones. I'm gonna do that in a future episode. You like this video, hit that like button. If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button. I wanna know if you didn't like something. Subscribe, comment, give us some questions if you have them. Once I start getting more questions, I'm gonna start answering questions at the ends of the videos. All right, and that's it. That's my tutorial for the week. We got a podcast coming out on Saturday, and we got another tutorial coming out next week. So stay tuned, and I'm Derek from Make Media Studios, and we are out. Wait, stop. Look, there's more things that you can still do. Look, if you minimize whatever video you're currently watching of mine, and you scroll down a little bit, there's gonna be this red subscribe button. You know what you do? You click it. Let's check this out. Ready? Watch. It's crazy. It goes from red to gray. Right? Blew my mind. I want you to check to see if yours goes from red to gray, and I want you to leave a comment down below if it did. And that's about it. Now you're at the end of the video. Go on ahead and watch something else now.